Islam, 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 Islam. Let's get started. Islam. Excuse me. Islam. Islam, 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 and welcome to another edition of the Moorish Light Continues, where the podcast is a revolution. Of course, we began by saying the Moorish American prayer: Islam, Islam, Islam. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation, by night and by day, through his holy prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. We need to remember as Moors to study that prayer and follow those steps, because the last step is actually the first step. Through his holy prophet, Drew Ali is the first step. And a lot of us take that as the last step, but it's actually the first step. And when I read my story, you'll understand why I say that. Islam, 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 and welcome to another edition of the Moorish Light, where the revolution is a podcast. We begin by giving praises to the Almighty God, Allah, the causeless cause and the rootless root from which all things have come. We give honor to the last prophet in this dispensation, Prophet Noble Drew Ali, in the first, second, and third form. I give honor to Grand Sheikh John Given Zeal for building on the foundation laid by our founder. And I'd like to give a special honor to my teacher, Grand Sheikh Richardson Dingle Eel, Prophet Noble Drew Ali III, as well as to his brother Timothy Dingle Eel, hyphen Prophet Noble Drew Ali, God man and prophet. Modern day Moses and Aaron. Honor to Marcus Mosiah Garvey and the great emancipator Abraham Lincoln. Honors to Supreme Grand Sheik and Sheikess Prather Eel, Supreme Grand Sheikess Louise Dingle Eel, the noblest, Honorary Supreme Grand Sheik Thorn Eel and Sheikess Thorn Eel, and our current Grand Sheikess / National Grand Sheikess Tiffany Jones Bay. Islam, and welcome to the Moorish Light, the Soul School, shining light, clearing up the confusion, and teaching the basic facts. Our objective is unity and manifesting the ultimate goal of the Moorish movement. We are not going to dispute Charters, who is the Supreme Grand Sheik. We are here to establish a basic foundation of the Moorish movement in love and understanding. Since this is Moorish light, it is only appropriate that we define light. Spiritually, light symbolizes knowledge, truth, divine presence, hope, guidance, and purity, representing awareness and the path away from spiritual darkness, in parenthesis, ignorance and sin, towards enlightenment, goodness, and union with the divine, appearing across cultures as God's creation and wisdom, or a guiding force for humanity. It signifies wisdom, life, revelation, and the illumination of the spirit within. That light is something else, and putting Moorish on light makes it even more powerful. So, of course, we always open our program reading from the Holy Quran of Mecca. So, I'm going to share my screen as I usually do. And let's see if I can, there we go. And we're reading from Surah 4, and this is ayats 80 and 81. It says, "He who obeys the messenger obeys Allah. But if any turn away, we have not sent thee to watch over their evil deeds." And it says, "The messenger was sent to preach, guide, instruct, and show the way, not to drive the people to good. Drive the people to good. That is not Allah's plan, which trains the human will. The messenger's duty is therefore to convey the message of Allah in all ways of persuasion that are open to him. If men perversely disobey the message, they are not disobeying him, but they are disobeying Allah. In the same way, those who obey the message are obeying Allah. They are not obliging the messenger, they are merely doing their duty. So, back to our prayer. Our prayer says, Allah is the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation by night and by day through his holy prophet, Drew Ali. So, a lot of us who are out here, we got these Moorish conversations going on, and we Moors and we muse and we this and we that. Allah didn't ordain you. He didn't give you a message. You are Johnny come lately, and you're trying to create your own message. But in so doing, you're also defying the great God. And some of us believe because we aren't punished immediately that Allah winketh at our doings. And I'm going to say to you, the longer it takes for you to get the point, the harsher the punishment will be. Because there are those, the Moorish Science Temple was set up for our salvation, allowing, giving us lessons that we may transform ourselves back into the state of mind of our forefathers, transform ourselves from clinging to names and principles that delude to slavery. So more science is more about transformation than quoting, than a mountain of information. It is about studying yourselves. And in studying yourselves, nobody says you're not going to struggle. Nobody says you're not going to fall. You're not going to be perfect. Let me say that. You're not going to be perfect. None of us are. But in our struggles, we should stay faithful. One of it in Acts 7, it says uh, that you should attend your meetings, support all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple. And it says, then you're entitled to the name of faithful. Now, if you're learning more science outside of the Moorish Science Temple, how can you be entitled to the name of faithful? Because the most important position in the Moorish Science Temple is that of a member. You remain a member. I don't care how many titles you get or how many titles you make up. If you're not following the basic duties of a member according to the bylaws, then you are not following the great God Allah and you are not following the prophet. But some of you are out here perpetrating. Mm-hmm. Out here just perpetrating like Allah ordained you to do this job. So we need to be very clear that by honoring and respecting the prophet and those divine and sacred things that he brought for us is our way of telling Allah that we hear him, that we know him. 81 says, they have obedience on their lips, but when they leave thee, a section of them meditate all night on things very different from what thou tellest them. But Allah's records, their nightly plots. So keep clear of them, but put thy trust in Allah. Enough and enough is Allah as a disposer. Let me check and see if there's a footnote. And the footnote says if we trust people who are not true, they are more likely to hinder than to help. But Allah is all good, as well as all powerful, and all our affairs are best entrusted to His care. He is the best guardian of all interests. So to say that you're a Moorish American and you're in the Moorish Science Temple and not recognize the fact that you are also a Muslim and not recognize the fact that you have to submit your will, to put your will in tune with the great God Allah, and then you become a resurrection, then you become a fact. It's hypocrisy. It says, therefore, we should not trust the lip profession of hypocrites, but trust in Allah. Nor should our confidence in Allah be shaken by any secret plots that enemies hatch against us. We should take all our human precautions against them, but having done so, we should put our trust in Allah, who knows the inner workings of events better than any human mind can conceive. So, more science without Allah is not more science. I don't care how much lawyering you or Black Law Dictionary you've read. You have to the basic is submit your will. You have to sit and you have to learn. Just because you know a bunch of information does not necessarily put you in accord with the Prophet and more science. A lot of us get confused because we see temples and some say you shouldn't be still. Y'all singing. Okay, we can. Who said we couldn't? We're praying. We should. But can't we also teach law? Can't we also teach history? Can't we teach divine and national instructions as we do those things? So I'm trying to understand, why do we use small things to divide and segregate ourselves to make us feel superior? We need to cease and desist. So let's talk about what our topic is today. How did we mistake imitation for liberation? That is our topic today. How did we mistake imitation for liberation? And how I'm going to introduce this today is, I gotta find it. I know I had it up. Give me a second here. Let me stop sharing. I probably could find this easier. Hit my screen. And let's see. I got all my stuff open here. Let's see if I can find what I'm looking for. Here we go. So we're going to start by reading from the 1883 decision. And then we're going to start making some comparisons. And as you can see, this particular decision, okay, here we got 29. Now, this is how it
will spend your last hour wishing you had never been born.
should have happened
Barney smiled, the kind of smile that does not reach the eyes, the kind that sits on a face
when
like
a
a
man
skull.
has emerged from
I'm
slavery
counting on it.
by the aid of beneficent legislation, has shaken off the inseparable concomitants of that state. There must be some stage in the progress of his elevation when he takes the rank of a mere citizen and ceases to be the special favorite of the laws, and when his rights as a citizen or a man or a woman are to be protected in the ordinary modes by which other men's rights are protected. The ordinary mode by which other men's rights are protected. 2026. And we still have leaders talking about civil rights instead of citizenship. When do we take on the rank of a mere citizen? Or can we take on the rank of a mere citizen in our current status? So let's read a little further. It says there were thousands of so called free colored persons in the country before the abolition of slavery, enjoying all the essential rights of life, liberty, and property the same as so called white citizens. Yet, not one at that time thought it was an invasion of their personal status as a free man because they were not admitted to all the privileges enjoyed by white citizens, or because they were subject to discrimination in the enjoyment of accommodations in inns, public conveyances, and places of amusement. Mere discrimination on the account of race or color was not regarded as badges of slavery. Why? Because you were on the plantation. On the plantation, I mean, how much voice did you have? If since that time the enjoyment of equal rights in all these respects has become established by constitutional enactment, it is not by the force of the 13th Amendment, which merely abolishes slavery, but by the force of the 14th and 15th Amendments. On the whole, we are of the opinion that no countenance of authority for the passage of the law in question can be found in either the 13th or 14th Amendment of the Constitution, and no other ground of authority for its passage being suggested, it is necessarily be declared void, at least as far as its operation in the several states. Now, what you need to understand about the several states were those states that held slavery. Now, the other thing you need to understand, there weren't no there weren't no hotels on the plantation. There weren't any bars on the plantation. There weren't anything that we needed to share except the so-called master's house. So how did we get from slavery to discrimination? Who changed the scenario? Who did this change and told us discrimination was our problem? Because this all came up. This came up in 1866. You had the Civil Rights Bill of 1866 and I think 1875 that this particular court case is addressing. And so it's saying this very simple thing. At some point in time, your rights, our rights, should be protected the same as everybody else's rights are protected, which means then we're on a level playing field. But then we stop thinking about slavery and began to fight discrimination. Now, in order to understand how we have to fight slavery, we need to understand um, the badges of slavery. Let's see. You had the so-called slave master's name because she was classified as property. You had a label, either Negro, black, colored, darky coon, shine, Ethiopian, and they even had the octoroon, and it's another one, Cameroon, octoroon, and I can't, mulatto, and it's one other one, meaning that you had so many drops of our blood. Uh, we got the religion Christianity, and but did we understand the standards of being held as a slave was? So in order for us to understand that, I have to go into the Willie Lynch letters, and I know that I do have it here. And if you give me a second, I want you to hear something, because I think we just like living in la la land, trying to ignore slavery and still not addressing what the issue is. Because some of us think imitation is equality. Some of us think the ability to imitate is what makes us free. So let's go. Let me stop sharing this screen and we're going to go to another screen. Let me stop sharing and we're going to go to the Willie Lynch letters. So let's see. I don't know why I have it up here. Give me a second. Where is it?
Islam, sister.
Islam.
Excuse me. Wasn't that change in the what was called the Reconstruction Acts? Civil rights came into being.
Say that again.
Wasn't that change in the Civil Rights Acts?
What
Then
was
with Reconstruction,
what was changed? You gotta be a little more specific.
the status when we dealt with the 1320, and then later on got changed to the 13-2. Thereby, civil rights came into being.
Civil rights did was developed after the Civil War. You're right. It was all in contrary to President Lincoln. So I want to make sure.
Because you had what was called presidential reconstruction, then with the 1320, then you had congressional reconstruction.
And that's where the 1866 civil rights laws were developed. So I want to. You're absolutely right. You did have presidential reconstruction and you had congressional reconstruction. And the point is that our topic is how did we accept imitation for liberation? So under the Civil Rights Act, the new topic became discrimination, and slavery was pushed on the back burner. So it became the if I could be like him, I'm equal, I'm free. But that is not what actual freedom allows us to be our original selves, our original person with our original minds, and doing and thinking as we have done for civilization over the years. So, yes, you're absolutely right. All right, so this is the Willie Lynch letter, and I don't know how many people have ever read this, but I need you to hear something. And it says, Gentlemen, I greet you here on the bank of James Rivers in the year of our Lord 1712. First, I shall talk to you, gentlemen of the colony of Virginia. And I'm going to get past, I'm going to jump past some things. It says, um, I am not here to enumerate your problems. I am here to introduce you to a method of solving them. In my bag here, I have a foolproof method for controlling your so called black slaves. I guarantee you, I guarantee every one of you that if installed correctly, it will control the slaves for at least 300 years. My method is simple. Any member of your family or your overseer can use it. I have outlined a number of differences among the slaves. I take these differences and make them bigger. I use fear, distrust, and envy for control purposes. These methods have worked on my modest plantation in the West Indies. It will work throughout the South. Take this simple little list of differences and think about them. On the top of my list is age, but it's there only because it starts with the A. The second is color or shade. There is intelligence, size, sex, sizes of plantations, status on plantations, attitude of owners, whether the slaves lives in the valley, on the hill, east, west, north, south, have fine hair, coarse hair, or is tall or short. Now that you have a list of differences, I shall give you an outline of action. But before I shall assure you that distrust is stronger than trust, and envy stronger than adulation, respect, or admiration. The black slaves, I'm going to read it as it's written, after receiving this indoctrination, shall carry on and will become self refueling, self regenerating for hundreds of years, maybe thousands. Don't forget, you must pitch the old black male versus the young black male. The young black male against the old black male. You must use dark skinned slaves versus the light skinned slaves, and the light skinned slaves versus the dark skinned slaves. You must use, excuse me, I lost my place. You must use female versus the male, and the male versus the female. Is that argument still going on right now?
Exactly.
That argument is still going on right to this hour. Um, you must also have white servants, overseers, distrust all blacks. But it is necessary. So now, when they say that, they're talking about the person who isn't a slaveholder. So I have to put hatred between you and the person who's in your situation. So I'm not going to respect you because you don't hold slaves, but I'm going to respect my slave master. I'm going to brag about his plantation, and I'm going to brag about how successful I am on this plantation. And then it goes on to say, you must also, it says, but it is necessary that your slaves trust and depend on us. When I need to read that again, necessary that your slaves trust and depend on us. They must love and respect and trust only us. Gentlemen, these kits are your keys to control. Use them. Have your wives and children use them. Never miss an opportunity. If used intensely for 1 year, the slaves themselves will remain perpetually distrustful. So, what we these are the principles that we still live by. That's why you had gangs, one versus the other. You know, we got all this controversy, all this battling against each other, women versus men, men versus women. Do you realize that's the slave conduct? Are you understanding that is slave conduct? That's not modern day conduct. Not only is it slave conduct, they took it and gave it to the European woman. Now she uses it as well. And then we turn around and imitate her, doing the same thing. Slave conduct. Brothers, you talk about your sisters, You give honor to all these other women around the world. But their men provided an economic structure. Their men controlled their country. Their men had a path to protect them. What have you done for us to get us off of this plantation we in? It's just a question.
That almost that almost sounds like a portion taken out of the Willie Lynch. Let's make a slave kit
It
where
is.
they divided the mother against the child, husband against the wife, the lover against the darker, the older against the younger.
Exactly. And that's what and see we don't understand that those are things that we still, because we picked up discrimination, we did not correct the slave behavior that we lived by. We dressed it up now. He said, trust in me. How did they get us to trust in him? They told us they Jesus, right? Isn't that how they define Jesus for us? To this point, not only did they define him so well that he was Jesus, guess what? It's so embedded in us until they don't even have to put the European picture up on the wall no more.
This is why this is why the prophet said you can't discriminate against a free person.
Yeah.
But we fall into that under so-called civil rights as opposed to what was passed. We were covered by constitutional rights via the 1320 and Lincoln's proclamations.
So when they when they took on when they came up with the Civil Rights Act, because President Johnson, Andrew Johnson, vetoed it, along with the Civil Rights Act came the Voting Rights Act. We had our leaders such as Frederick Douglass and all the educated people who didn't live on a plantation, who never suffered slavery in its true essence, speaking for people who were on a plantation, talking about all they needed was the right to vote. And as we read in the resurrection book, that vote was controlled by the scallywags and the carpetbaggers.
Right.
So
But
nothing. Go ahead.
President Johnson says if they control your rights, they control your vote.
Yeah. So exactly. So if he can control your habits, you know, if I can keep you in, if I can tell you that you're free because you can ride in the same bus that I ride on, if I can tell you you're free because you can eat where I eat, what does that do for my economic destiny? What does that do for my self, being self sufficient? How does that help us become an integral, free part of the system? It does not. It does not. So I'm going to go to another book. And this particular book, let me stop sharing this. I hope I'm sharing. I don't know if I'm sharing it or not. But let's see. Give me a second here. And this book is called Lincoln World Emancipator. That's not it. Alright, no, that's not one either. This has to be it. Okay, let me go back here. And let me go. Let me see if I can find it. Hmm. Here we go. And this book is written by a Englishman, and it's called Lincoln World Emancipator. And I'm going to read pages, I think 8 through 12, maybe not that many, but the writing's pretty good. It says the true democratic idea is not that one man is as good as another, but that in natural privileges and opportunity, one man shall have as good a chance as another. So that Bill Sykes, if at the end he has still not had been unable to make a decent job of his life, shall not be able to say that society he let me get myself together, will not be able to tell society that he failed because he was deprived of his natural rights as an individual. Now, if we were emancipated, what were our natural rights as individuals that was restored to us, since we said that we are free, we're emancipated and we are free? What individual rights or natural rights does civil rights give us as a group of people? We need to think about these things because we mistake being able to do what other people do that we have arrived. But you're also pushing a system that will never let you evolve but so far. That system has a ceiling on it. For example, think about sports and how they just kept us out. Not that they could not they just kept us out. So the minute they let us in, we excel and we believe we are accepted because we help them look better. Let's read a little further. It says the sanctity of natural rights is not finally satisfied by universal education and universal franchise. These things, properly understood, exercise well enough, but both these or other, presumably liberal institutions, may sometimes have the effect of betraying the very freedom of the individual that it is their right to function and to foster. And listen to this. I need you to just hear me. Read with me. Walk with me. Talk with me. Hear me out. When an educational system engages itself, as it too often does, in training a child to a preconceived end instead of fitting him to frame a purpose of his own, or when a universal or equal franchise is used by a majority to deprive a minority of self determination and some purely personal affair, you have the seeds of tyranny, bearing their rank fruit in systems established in the name of liberty. I need you to just digest that for a minute. Digest that. When were we given our natural rights? Let's go back to the badges of slavery. We have names like Johnson and Johnson. Johnson from Europe and Johnson from where you from? Where the other Johnson from? Or we have Jefferson from Europe. Well, where is other Mr. Jefferson from? Or Williams. Where the other Mr. Williams from? You put your name on your property. uh, Labels, Negro, black, colored. We right now trying to make black mean something. We're trying to make it mean. We're attaching it to everything. But history is not black and white. History is the story of nations rising and falling, conquering, uh, doing all kinds of things to improve itself and sometimes self destructing. There is no black history. There is no white history. Those are plantation terms that still use here in these United States because we still walking, talking, and living on a mental plantation. Unless you can show me where uh, the NAACP, SNCC, or any of these organizations have pursued actual freedom, pursued our individuality, pursued our originality, taking us back to our forefathers. Instead, we sit at the bottom of the table waiting for the crumbs to fall. We share crumbs among the few, and the few tell the many how well we doing. When they created the Civil Rights Act, the 13th to 14th Amendment, Our government was no longer a free government. It became a tyrant because the Constitution guaranteed every state a Republican form of government. That's not what you see today. What you see today is Congress dictating to every state what it should think, what it should do, how it should do it. Plessy versus Ferguson. What did they fight for? To be able to sit in the same train car as the European. How does that improve us as a people? Brown versus Board of Education said we're going to integrate the schools. Well, if in my career as a teacher, I haven't seen. I've been in Baltimore City all my life. I haven't seen a truly integrated school. Cause see, I was around when they started integration, and the only thing we got at my school was European teachers. So I'm trying to understand, when did we make this great move to equity or equality? When did that happen? Because somehow or another, imitation seems to be what we do in place of true equity, true equality. And I mean, I look at why our children on college campus trying to be Greeks when their forefathers are the founders of civilization, when their forefathers introduced math, science, picked the European up off for, gave them a bath. But you want to be Greeks. I'm trying to understand. Help me, somebody, help me understand why you're trying to make a color in identity in 2026 with all this information that exists. I'm going to read a little more. It says the only natural right of an individual worth bothering about is his right to freely and completely to realize himself. Let me read it to you again. The only natural right of an individual worth bothering about is his right to freely and completely to realize himself. And you wonder why a prophet had to come on the scene? We so deep into this mental slavery, a prophet had to come on the scene. Um, one of the lessons is that they put us in a position where we repeat what we're taught, but the genius in us is suppressed. The genius in us is suppressed. So let's just go a little further. Y'all not I get hyped up, but I was hoping y'all could see that. So we need to really, really examine in 2026 where we are going, not just as a not just as a group, not just job wise, but what are we going to do for ourselves? Because I know it's and I commend a lot of good things happening. I'm not going to say that there's not some good things happening in amongst us as a people. I'm not going to say that because that's not true. But I am going to ask, how does it solve the Negro problem? Because that is the problem of the hour. And because we chose civil rights over citizenship, we've opened the door for a whole lot of other things to come into play. Whole bunch of defiance. Because not only is man ruled by constitutional law, man is ruled by divine law. And there are those among us who think they're going to do it better than the Creator. There are those of us who think we can do it better than the Creator. So I go back to my original reading. Let's go back, because some things need to be said more than once. Excuse me. Some things need to be read more than once, because you got to get this point, especially, and I'm talking to my Moorish family. It says when a man has emerged from slavery by the aid of beneficent legislation, has shaken off the inseparable concomitants of that state, there must be some stage in the progress of his elevation when he takes the rank of a mere citizen and ceases to be the favorite of the laws, and when his rights as a citizen, a man or woman, are to be protected in the ordinary modes by which other men and women's rights are protected. There were thousands of free colored people in the country before the abolition of slavery, enjoying all the essential rights of life, liberty, and property, the same as white citizens. Yet no one at that time thought it was an invasion of their personal status as a freeman because they were not admitted to all the privileges enjoyed by white citizens, or because they were subject to discrimination in the enjoyment of accommodation in inns, public conveyances, and places of amusement. Mere discrimination on account of race or color were not regarded as badges of slavery. And I'll say this once again, because the majority of us were sitting on some plantations. What were we discriminating? What was the discrimination going on the plantation? It was dehumanizing. But then the educated, the learned, started to speak for those who were uneducated and started determining what was best for them. And they said the best thing for them was to vote. And that vote was controlled. I haven't seen us in my 72 years vote us out of any situation we were in. Somebody can prove me wrong. I'm glad. It says, if since that time the enjoyment of equal rights in all these respects has become established by constitutional enactment, it is not by the force of the 13th Amendment, which merely abolishes slavery, but by the force of the 14th and 15th Amendments. On the whole, we are of the opinion that no countenance of authority for the passage of the law in question, talking about the Civil Rights Bill now, can be found in either the 13th or 14th Amendment of the Constitution, and no other ground of authority for its passage being suggested, it must necessarily be declared void, at least as far as its operation in the several states is concerned. And then we were looking at Brown versus Board of Education. And my stance was, why didn't we ask for better schools, better equipment? But Brown versus Board of Education said even if we had equal equipment, we still needed to be integrated. And I can honestly say every school that was integrated ended up being just us. They have a way of shutting us out, and then they let a few of us, and then we make some money and we go follow them. We do what we do. And I'm not saying that that's wrong. I'm just saying we got to get it right for everybody. We got to do what's right so that everybody benefits. When are we going to start working for the people and not the groups, not the little groups we got, you know? Because if I'm in your fraternity, I might help you out. I might help you out because you're my fraternity brother. But that brother who's sitting there who's just as qualified might not get that job because he's not my fraternity brother or my sorority sister. And I'm not saying that you don't do good works, but it is a form of segregation. We got to tear down these walls. We got to tear down these walls. We got to tear down these walls that divide us. We've got to get on a mission of actual freedom so that we can take our rightful place among the families of nations. Because that's the only way the world can get right is when we do what we need to do and get what we deserve for that our forefathers fought for. Yeah, there's a real revolution going on. It's not a spiritual revolution. It's not a religious revolution. It is right against wrong. We in the Moorish Science Temple have the tools to help us get to that point. But we have to represent it. We have to show the world that what we have is the solution. And okay, we look like we down to that. We're down to those last few moments. And so I'm going to let me see. I don't think I have it up. But I'm gonna I want to close on this particular note because I think we just need to I think I'm okay. And I'm going to close with Savior of Humanity because I think sometimes we have to be reminded the time. This is from Savior of Humanity. It says, rare is it that you find a real prophet whose mission is the salvation of the nations. So what we have works for everybody. The land is full of false prophets whose mission is to fleece the people. The time was and now is that there has come into a land a prophet in the likeness of his brothers to redeem them from sin and slavery. Truly, this prophet is noble Drew Ali is the man, bringing with him the message of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, which alone can save the nations. Like the coming of Jesus, he does not come from the elect, nor the rich, nor the mighty in worldly power, but all power is given to him to do good. This power, I lost my page in something. This power is from Allah. Sometimes technology just not my friend. I'm working on it. I'm trying to build a better relationship with technology. And it goes on to say, it will be through his works that will make men of every nation accept the truth that he brings. It will be through his teachings the nations of the earth will understand the will of the master. It will be through him that peace on earth and goodwill to all men shall come. It will be through his work that humanity will be brought from the slime of life and placed on a solid rock of salvation. By Prophet Noble Trolley. Through his works, Moors. Through his works. Through his works. And of course, we are getting to that time, so I'd like to invite you out. We have meetings from 12 to 2 Sunday school. Holy Night is from 8 to 10. We're located, if you're in Baltimore, at 1055 North Milton Avenue, as well as 2900 West Pressman Street. Please come out and join us. Join us next Sunday, May 3rd, for not this Sunday, but the following Sunday for divine and national instructions. And of course, please join me next Tuesday for The Moorish Light Continues. The Revolution is a podcast. And last but not least, Moors, we need to let the world know that feathers and turbans stand for something. So on September the 26th, 2026, we will have actual Freedom Day in Washington, D.C. Mose, you got to get out the house. You got to come and let the people know that the feathers and turbans are living and that we do represent the prophet and that we're going to help to bring the nations of the earth under love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and that every nation must worship under its own vine and fig tree. Of course, we're down to the last few moments. I appreciate your participation, Sheik Jackson Bay. Uh, and I will be having some guests. You won't always be hearing my voice, but until I can get to that point, I just want to thank you for those of you who tuned in, for those of you who listened. It's time to wake up, time to get some things done. We can't keep doing the same old thing expecting a different result. There is so, the more science has so many things to offer. And we need all you brainiacs, all you wise people who have the qualifications or the skill to help us get this to our people. Because we're not against our people, we're for our people. We're not against anybody because we're taught to love instead of hate. So I don't want that misunderstanding to get out there. We're taught to love instead of hate. And our mission is for the sake of all humanity. And that's what we're taught. Our Holy Quran is our tool to build our character. Our Moorish literature is our guide to run our movement. We use the Holy Quran, the Bible, a plethora of references in order to teach Moorish science. Remember, we have 5 disciplines, and watch this. We have divine, national, constitutional, historical, and moral. Those are our 5 disciplines that we teach and learn from. So without further ado, I thank you and appreciate you for allowing me to bring to you the Moorish light and love and understanding. And we're going to close with just a little music.
Powered by Riverside. Powered by Riverside.